Welcome back, everybody, to the UKL Twitch channel. This is the Four Nations, this is the Winter Split 2025, and this is the lower bracket of playoffs. My name is Trajan, I'll be your desk host for this evening. Joining me is Bloxer and Frisky, and we have Belfast Storm versus RIZE Gaming on the docket here, folks. This is 2 rounds in. We've had some lower bracket or I guess not even last week, due to certain scheduling and streaming shenanigans. Something else was going on last weekend, nothing particularly important, I fear, but we have managed to catch up, and here we are with Belfast Storm and RIZE. So if we could get the bracket up real quick, production, we can see how this has played out. Bloxer, playoffs so far, there has been a lot that has been expected. Has there been anything that has really surprised you out of the results we've seen thus far?
In terms of the upper bracket, no, not really. I feel like Broad 200 Bandits could have gone either way. It was a little
yeah, just a question mark.
Yeah, at that point, wasn't sure. I think Broad in the lower bracket actually makes things a lot more interesting for us as well. They're going to be a little bit of the team to beat. And then also Vertex Chi, that one was potentially a little bit surprising. Not in that Chi beat Vertex, but in the players that they ended up doing it with. They ended up bringing in 2 new players. And honestly, they looked great. They looked just amazing to watch. It was Smee and Trez, a couple names that if you've been around in the UK for a while, you will know of. Trez had a brilliant first game. I mean, I think there was 1 death. Smee, I think, died once across the entire 2 games, so it was a really great look for Good Chi, and the fact that they were able to bring in a couple new players and they were able to have such an immediate impact makes this losers bracket a lot more interesting, because all of a sudden, I think that Good Chi could go far.
I am a certified Smee head for sure. I remember watching the entire Pixel Cup finals in Leeds with just me and Smee watching 10 players going at it in that venue. That was a day to remember. I'm a big Smee fan. And we did get to see some excellent content from him. You're absolutely right. So Good Chi getting that 2-0. Big for them. Now, on the other side of that lower bracket, we did have it was a bit more of a confusing affair, really, watching back those games. It was a bit of a fraught 2-game series with a victory, RIZE taking over Paragon. Now, Ashley, we'll step back. We'll not come to that yet. We'll wait for that. We'll save that one for the fans. For now, let's talk a little bit more about that upper bracket, because you mentioned 200 Bandits Broad. It was a mess. 200 Bandits won. Good for them. Yeah. Other side was Belfast Storm Venomcrest, and Belfast, one of our teams today. Frisky, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What did that tell us about those 2 teams?
Well, it was a bit of an interesting 2-0, even though it was relatively one-sided towards Venomcrest. Belfast Storm actually made it a decent competition. Venomcrest's style of kind of playing a little bit slower in the early game and then kind of being a much better team fight team in the mid game, Belfast Storm was able to kind of work it in reverse, especially in the second game where they pushed much harder to get more kills early on. But even though they had the whole team comp was designed for that team fight, they just could not get it together in the mid game, and Venomcrest was able to be much stronger and then just take the game once they got a little bit of ahead in the mid game. So I think this series is going to be a lot about how well Belfast Storm sets up their fights in the mid game. We obviously saw RIZE versus Paragon, which if you enjoyed that series, I mean, I don't know how you could enjoy that series. I mean, maybe a few hits to the head, maybe you would be able to enjoy it a little bit more, but it's fun. Yeah. I mean, you talked about concussions before, Max, but we'll say about
yeah. I can't even conclusively say the players were having fun in that series, because it just got too weird, at this point. Like, are we enjoying ourselves, or are we just trapped in a sort of limbo state, in a purgatory that was that series? Before we move on quickly, Bloxer, from what I understand, you may have something else to share us on Belfast on Venomcrest. Did you have something else to add before we move on to the morass that is RIZE Paragon?
Yeah, my main takeaway from that matchup between Venomcrest and Belfast Storm, especially for Belfast Storm, was that unfortunately they were the 4th seed. Like, the 4th seed was gonna play Venomcrest, and whoever the 4th seed was, they were gonna lose that matchup. I really don't know that if it was anybody else, it would have gone any differently. Venomcrest, they just looked like the team to beat pretty much from the first week, end of first week, beginning of second week. I've immediately been pretty much discounting losses against Venomcrest as just like, they're just better. I'm hopeful that somebody will be able to, take them on later on, but I really don't think it reflects poorly on Belfast Storm to have lost that matchup. There's just another level to Venomcrest at the moment.
Yeah, we will look forward to the 200 Bandits Venomcrest match, the winners final later on in playoffs, and we'll see if there is something to look forward to there, some challenger that can rise up. 200 Bandits did give them a good run for the money in their regular. Oh goodness!
Were you even trying with that one?
You can't.
See?
You can't do this.
I was
to me.
waiting
You can't
for
do
it.
this
I
to
was
me,
waiting.
guys. Why-
I was gonna make it at some point, so you just did it for me.
Temporal is still booking me on desks with this ban. It is unbelievable. Okay, right. So let's give you something real to talk about and stop you making puns here. Let's give you some content to talk about. Let's talk about RIZE and Paragon. Okay, Frisky, break it down a little bit, because when I saw the 2-0, I was like, oh, bit of an upset, right? But then I watched the game and I don't really know what to think anymore.
I mean, I don't even know what to think. I mean, you talk about a team that was worse, like Paragon. I mean, I think it just comes down to the thing I always say about how good you are is dependent on how well you're able to close. They had leads in both of those games. They had a really good lead on their Corki in the first game, the Paragon, and then RIZE just was able to get all 4 dragons and then win the game off of that. It was a Hextech Drake, so you're obviously going to have a much better team fight presence with that, and RIZE has kind of been drafting for team fight a little bit more. They had a Scion, they had a Nazir, they had a lot of really good front line. Then the second game, Paragon got all 4 of their dragons and had a Ocean Drake, but again, just wasn't able to close. Just a couple better catches from RIZE were able to, seal them away. They'll seal them away as they were playing Yone as well. I wasn't even intending with that pun, so I apologize for that one, Trajan.
I'll give you that one. That was
exactly.
that was earned. That was an earned
Yeah,
pun, right?
that was an earned pun. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But we talk about how well he was able to do on that Yone Casablanca. I think that's going to be relatively big pick for them in this. I mean, if he can get ahead with that Yone in the early game, it's going to make RIZE's mid game way harder when we've seen Belfast Storm struggle, a little bit if they're not ahead in the mid game and with the better team fight.
Yeah, it was a game that especially that game 2 was one where I was watching back the replay and just going, every time I checked back on it, it was like, so now they've got Soul, so now they've got Elder, so now they've got Baron. Like, I can't see how RIZE win this game. Every time I check back, it seems more impossible, and yet it is so. Now, we do have a replay to show of kind of how it became possible in Block, so you can talk to us a little bit about this one. This is one of those RIZE comeback fights.
Yeah, I mean, this one is exactly what you're talking about right here, Frisky, with the Yone ultimate. This Fate Sealed was just gorgeous. I mean, the way that it catches on to everybody here, everybody who was trying to space out this team fight, something Paragon had actually been doing pretty well up until this point. Yeah, it was a complete turning point for RIZE, but you're absolutely right in that RIZE shouldn't really have been able to win this series at all. 2-0 indicates, it was a smashing, you were able to just completely destroy your opponents. No. This was the closest 2-0 I think is possible. It's a sort of situation where you're really sad it wasn't a 5-game series. Maybe we could have seen a turnaround, a reverse sweep, something like that, if it was a best of 5. As it stands, right, as RIZE, lots of tape to look back on and go, hey, we need to fix this. For Belfast Storm, though, lots of tape on ways to beat them. And the thing is, I think this is a little bit different than being able to look at that Venom Crest series for Belfast Storm and be like, oh yeah, well, they've given us tape on how to beat them. Yeah. I don't know particularly that RIZE are going to be able to replicate what Venom Crest can do, whereas I think in terms of playstyles, in sort of the way that you're going to be able to replicate victories, I feel like there's a much better chance right here that you can sit as Belfast Storm, look at what Paragon did to be able to get themselves big leads, and replicate that in this series.
Yeah, we are actually on schedule to start the game on time, which is just bonkers. So I'm loving what's going on behind the scenes right here.
Well, you say that now. You just said it. We'll see if that stays true.
I know. I've jinxed it now. We do very quickly have a second replay to show just of Belfast Storm, because this is the dynamic that I really love between these two teams, is that we saw RIZE absolutely scrape past Paragon. It was not a sure thing through that team fighting prowess, and team fighting prowess is what we've been talking about for Belfast Storm all the way through the split. That's what we're really trying to get across right now, is that both of these teams are so good at it. This is from week 1, day 1. This is the first thing Belfast Storm showed us, is team fighting like this against the Versio in that first match. Like, this is a strength that both of them have, and if neither of them have other strengths, if neither of them has something else to kind of turn to, I'm wondering if we're just going to see them pick 5 front to backers on either side and just headbutt each other, or if there is going to be a curveball, right? If there's going to be some other element tossed in, some sort of Kale mid-esque element thrown in that Venom Crest was using to kind of destabilize Belfast. But before we get into the draft and find out what that is potentially going to be, we are going to quickly show our predictions. We have confirmed that we do have predictions to show. We have made them, and this is the reveal. Is this...
Wait, mine's not right.
I think mine's not right either. I think they have been flipped. So when I heard the predictions were ready, what really meant was predictions were, backwards. But so to confirm, I have predicted 2-1 RIZE, and I believe Bloxer, have you also predicted 2 on Rise?
No, 2-1
Okay.
to Belfast Storm.
I also
Okay.
2-1 Belfast Storm.
Okay, so the whole thing's reversed. So
It's
I have
unfair.
taken
Yeah.
Rise, you've
That's
both
good.
taken Belfast Storm. Key takeaway here, they're all 2-1s, right? We are expecting this to be a weird one. Bloxer, would you like to tell us about why you have taken Belfast Storm in the clinch over Rise?
Don't be fooled. Do not be fooled by looking at the sheets that says,
get it
it
twisted."
was a victory. It was a victory right here for Rise over Belfast Storm. It's lying to you. On
Right.
the Rift, it was a victory for Belfast Storm. They were able to pretty much completely dismantle Rise. It was an unfortunate technicality that ended up with them losing that matchup on the score
I mean,
sheet.
let's say
and I think they can
technicality on the
replicate it.
side of Belfast Storm, maybe, you know, they technically did something wrong. We'll call it that.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
made a whoopsie.
Yeah,
Potentially.
a
And I just
oopsie,
think
yeah.
they look... Yeah, they look like the better team, I think, just overall.
Yeah, to be clear, it is Paragon, I assume we're talking about here, that whoopsie doodled and lost to Rise in the lower bracket.
Yes.
Because Belfast Storm are about to potentially, we're going to give them the opportunity to throw a game against Rise. Everyone's doing it these days. Seems like the hot new thing to do. As we are into the draft, and we'll see if they're going to throw that one to start it off. So far, it is very much standard fare. Scarred on one side, Casanti on the other. As a quick note, because of where we are in the tournament realm, lane swaps are still not removed. They are still technically possible. Will we see one today? I don't think so, but it is
God, I
technically
hope
possible.
Probably not.
And the champions are still where they were at that time. So, Frisky, if you're looking for a B1 for BFS, given that we know how they like to pick, we know they like team fighters, we like DPS in the back, tanks in the front, what are you looking for them to prioritize here?
I mean, they have a couple of options. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they go for something like Varus. I mean, they can go for a Vi as well, which is obviously still a relatively strong pick. I guess I'm a little surprised they banned the Skarner. I feel like Skarner is relatively weaker now after the nerfs. I mean, it's still certainly a viable pick. I just feel like it's not as strong of a easy blind. I feel like there's other things that can deal with him. But I mean, the Corki was actually the next one I was going to say. But I mean, yeah, you have Corki, who's obviously can maybe not dominate in the lane, but control a lane very well, has a lot of range, is able to save up his mana pretty well, has a good amount of damage, and then do really well in the team fights. He doesn't have the old Valkyrie with the package like he used to, but still the damage on Corki is insane. It's just how they build around that.
Yeah, we'll see what the option for Rise is going to be here in this bot side. Dratiko went for the double Ezreal last time against Paragon, was happy to lock it in very early on as well. There was no hesitation in that choice, and it does seem to have settled, but it is the Kalista instead, the first hover that we saw. I don't know if we've seen this out of almost anyone in this split block, but it seems like, pro play, this thing is permabanned, right? But we just don't seem to see it at this level as much.
It's really hard, and as much as these are very good players, to be able to play the Kalista at the highest level
it's not easy.
is ridiculous. But I'm excited to see it. I wasn't super sold on Drakito or Scooby in their previous matchup. They got pushed around quite a lot, and Protection and Sundex have actually looked really good. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what can be done with this Kalista. Also, where this Scion is going to go, because the Scion can end up in the bottom lane if you want a real bully lane down there. More expecting it to be a top laner right here for Zume, but it can be moved around. And I don't think I've seen that all year at all.
We've got the Synapse special right now. I believe this is a Synapse top Udyr to try and punish the Scion, right? Because we saw the Shwame Scion in the series against Paragon, and it was very good in that series. It was one of the least volatile things in that game for Rise. Shwame was consistently valuable. We see Limsey going back to the Corki, taking both sides of the Azir Corki matchup locked in for Belfast, and this is good for Limsey. I like that it gives him a bit more engaged potential than a Corki might have. But Frisky, if we're seeing Udyr top here, it is Synapse, which is one of the few people I would trust with this pick at this stage. But how are we feeling about the Udyr top at this point?
I mean, it's a little bit weirder than it used to be. I mean, obviously, it still has a good amount of damage that can control the waves really well, and then that's what made it so strong. I mean, I don't know how long it was strong, but probably about a year ago at this point. Is that Silas locked in? I believe it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, with the Kalista and Scion, they're definitely obviously picking the Scion because they're not sure which way it can go. I feel like Udyr can kind of handle the waves more than Scion. Obviously, it kind of depends on just how well he's able to avoid Scion's ability. So I'm interested to see it. The Azir, I think, is great. I think that's exactly what Belfast Storm really wants. I mean, we saw that Azir play that was made against Versio. My beloved Versio, of course. You had to do him like that, sadly.
Rest in peace.
I think that's definitely what they're going to want for these mid-game team fights. And I will say, because I need to say this about Kalista, I think Kalista is one of the most overrated. I think she's the most overrated champion in the game right now. I think
The most.
I think people put. I don't think she's the worst, but I think people put so much priority on her when she does so little when it goes to the late game. You have to do so well with her early game. The comp has to be designed around her so much, and I think worse teams are way worse at executing it. I think you have to be at like the very best and know how to play around it to do well with it, because if you don't, it's going to fall off if you don't do super well in the early game. So I think RIZE is going to bank on that a lot, but they have to pull through.
Yeah, it's all jungle focus in the band's second round. Viego on one side, Wukong and Pantheon on the other. We're not trying to thin out the support pool at all for this Corki, which is, yeah, so the Renata finally taken away right there. Wondering what the classic pairing is going to be. I mean, if we just end doing a Nautilus, which seems to be a Scooby comfort,
Leona, and Rel are all available. We really haven't touched the support pool at all. I think this might actually be the least support bans I've seen kind of all year. They've been very high priority. Really,
that second round is normally...
Yeah, a lot of support bans, but this time around, going towards the jungle, trying to pinch out a lot of the best junglers, but you've kind of still left open the top tier of the junglers. The Vi has been our strongest, our most played throughout the entire split for a reason. It looks great at the moment. Now, it does depend, obviously, where Belfast Storm are going to be putting this Udyr. It could go into the jungle, potentially. If they lock the Poppy in, that doesn't actually tell us either way which way it's going to be going, keeping that flexibility alive for the moment. Synapse is also very good on the Poppy. So is Dunlossie. I think it's more of a Dunlossie pick in my mind overall, but either could be good. And even with the Rel right here, that's a lot of tanky front line, but you might run out of damage a little bit as Belfast if you're not careful with this one.
I really like the Poppy pick, actually. I like the Poppy because you're taking it away from RIZE. I mean, if you're looking for the Rel, obviously you have a classic counter in the bot lane where you just put the Poppy in and it makes Rel hard to do anything. It can really make it easy for Kalista to get early kills. Plus, you have a Vi, you've got a Silas, stuff that can go in. It's going to be really helpful to have that defense early on. Now it just depends on where RIZE wants to go. It depends if they want to put the Sion bot, try to have a little bit more control of the wave, or they want to maybe go for something a little bit more passive now. I would still think they'd want something different in the top lane, but let's see if I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Well, it's probably not Alistair in the top lane, so...
No, we're not going back that far back.
Not quite. So, okay, so we have... It's still tank. It's still tank you can toss in and pull out, right? So I think this is fine, at least. I think we haven't really touched on the Silas into Azir. I mean, I like the dive potential and the playmaking that RIZE has with the Vi, the Sion, the Kalista ult, or like Silas to follow up to even steal a Rel or a Azir ult. Like, I love the options they've got there. But Belfast Storm also has like such great disengage with the Udyr ult, with the Poppy, even the Rel playing defensively with the Azir ult. I love the way that Belfast can pump the brakes on a team fight and then start pumping out some damage, unless RIZE gets the Mondo flank or gets like great damage. And you mentioned the risk of damage falling off for Belfast Storm block, so RIZE has a Kalista and a Sion and is Silas doing the DPS in this fight? Like, who is doing the DPS right now? So this feels like RIZE has given themselves a lot of tools, but Belfast Storm has the answer and more kind of leeway in how they need to play it necessarily. So I feel really good about Belfast Storm drafting game 1.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Belfast Storm draft is overall preferable to me. At the same time, though, RIZE, they do have the sort of composition that if you get that composition rolling, if you get the Vi rolling specifically, and then can translate that into getting your Kalista ahead, into getting your Silas ahead, that could look really good. At the same time, though, yeah, I agree. I don't think it's anywhere near as easy.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But for now, we'll quickly... But all three of us expected there to be one win for both sides at least. So this game could still go either way and still have those predictions be true. So, folks, Frisky, prediction for game number 1. I do have more faith in the RIZE draft. Do you think that they have overcooked it and are going to lose out in the late game? Who do you think's taking game 1?
I mean, it depends on how well they're able to close then, but I feel like even if they get an early game lead, just carrying that Kalista into the late game is going to be much difficult. So I think either way, whoever gets the lead in the early game, it's not going to matter. I think this game will run late and Belfast Storm will take it. Sure.
Bloxer, are you in concurrence?
I am, but I feel like of all the drafts for RIZE to do it on, this is the one, so I'm going to say RIZE.
Yeah, there's just a sense, you know, because I took the 2-1 RIZE prediction and it was pretty vibes based, I'll be honest, guys. I do think Belfast Storm has taken this one, though. I think Belfast Storm have got a really good start out the gate, so I'm going to take Belfast for now. We are going to pass it over to our casters to get us into game number 1, Luna and Sobonix. Or not. There we go.
Thank you so much, Trajan and co. I'm hyped for this game. These drafts look interesting. Didn't see the champion I was expecting. But at the end of it all, I am Luna. I am joined by Savonix, as previously mentioned. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm super excited. And yeah, the drafts are so different, right? You have one side where you have this Azir Corki, you want to play for that late game power spike. And then the other side, as mentioned on the analyst desk, you have a Kalista that you need to get ahead early game and you need to be able to close out the game before those power spikes hit on the other side. So it's two different sides of the coin, and I'm interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely do need to get a lead onto this Kalista. Does scale relatively, once you hit that full build state, you are pretty okay, but getting to there from the early game is definitely difficult. No Nico to pair with it either, which would have been incredible into the Belfast draft. But that being said, my dear friends, it's time to head on to the Rift for game number 1 of this best of 3 series. And honestly, if there isn't a level 1 in this game, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, no, I mean, the level 1 from RIZE is extremely good. You have a Sion and a Kalista. The Alistar, obviously, a champion that, I guess, at the early parts of the laning phase at level 1, not the strongest, but if people are walking into you, then it is good. And we're seeing a setup here, but Limsey does catch them all out, so probably no level 1 to be had.
Which honestly works out in Belfast's favor. Of course, we haven't seen the Synapse Udyr or split long, but Joame finding a flank here does find the knock-up onto Synapse, and it's a 5-man strong. I think the Rend was used there just for a bit of a slow. But no summon is used. Just a bit of annoyance, just a bit of vision, just a bit of health taken. Synapse likely going to take the reset under the tower, but there is, more importantly, that vision between the Gromp and the blue buff on the blue side.
Yeah, I mean, something like just this level 1 alone, there's so much of a storyline that follows with RIZE throughout this split. They came in, the roster changed at the very start for, reasons that I'm not sure if I could say on live broadcast, but it got changed and, changed again coming into playoffs. And you can see the confidence in this level 1 and this level 1 trade as well. It's a completely different roster. It's an exciting roster, and they're up against a bog standard UKL team in Belfast Storm. So yeah, this is a big test for the new look of RIZE.
Most certainly is. As we just admire Pigeon Right in the mid lane there, Eterniate Birdseed, everybody's favourite Summoner's Rift lawyer. Just taking a bit of unfortunate trade, but Casablanca taking that tower shot is going to even things out a little bit for Limsey. Generally, I think this is going to be a pretty slow early game anywhere other than the bot side. You do want to try and get this Kalista ahead, but that is much easier said than done. And we can actually see Dunlosi in the enemy blue side here.
Yeah, he's going for that little bit of an invade. He started on his Raptors and went all the way over to the bottom side jungle of Asura. So, sadly for this Vice, gonna probably walk into the bot side of the jungle to see a lot of camps missing. So, I think Dunlosi will get a big advantage off that. I'm wanting to see if he goes for some sort of level 3 gank on the bottom side, or if he just pivots back to his red side jungle to complete his clear, head over back to the top side. But I'm seeing some movements from Asura here that might interact with each other.
That they will. Both level 3 has been spotted. Of course, can't start charging up that Vault Breaker without...
Stunned.
It's a good stun into the wall. Asura going very low. There's the Vault Breaker. In comes the W. Flash from Sundax is good, but doesn't quite connect with the Shattering Strike. Limsey keeping Casablanca busy on the side as Scooby rotates in. But Protexian has got that shove and has moved up, but Limsey going very low in this mid 2v2 will get flashed on by Casablanca for first blood. A play that was started by Belfast Storm is ended by RIZE. Protexian taking a lot of spears from Dratiko here. Couple more autos, maybe a Pierce. The Rend comes in, doesn't quite get the damage down to kill, but has to be very, very scared of a flash combo from Scooby Mel on the top side. Synapse is trading with Joame very aggressively. Both no mana, both very low on health. Casablanca kills Sundax down in the mid lane. Synapse gets a solo onto Joame. Limsey's back in lane, running Casablanca down. One more auto will do it from the lethal tempo, but not quite in range. Waiting in the bush. Does stay. Gets the Kingslayer for the healing. But the kill still goes across to Limsey. Flash blown by both of these mid laners. And we are 3 minutes into this game, and the action is anywhere but bot lane. Astora and Dunlosi fighting over a crab. Dunlosi's happy to take that one away. What is happening?
Action, just as you said, action all across the board except for the bot lane. It might not be over. Asora's looking.
Certainly is. Joame moving down as well. Aware that their bot side was stolen away now. Moving in, I'm assuming. There is a collapse. The Synapse walks into Joame, takes the knock-up from that Q. Asura looking to come over the wall, but Donlosi is blocking. Back steps away. Botbreak tagged onto nothing. Slows are coming down in massive amounts. Casablanca's here, but Donlosi goes flying in. Feats of Warfare claimed by Belfast Storm as Synapse is just melting through this Scion. Donlosi's doing what he can, but Casablanca has to leave, and it's a double kill for this Poppy, and the fighting doesn't stop. You wanted action, ladies and gentlemen. Here is your action.
There are literally 6 kills in 4 minutes in this game. We burst open this first game of this series with a hectic amount of chaos. And I did not expect the team with the Azir Corki to be the ones in the lead. It is Synapse and Donlosi who are actually pulling out a lot of early game damage, right through the fact that these champions are brilliant stat checkers in the early game. There's so much damage if the Poppy can pin someone to the wall. You can see what Synapse is doing already to Schwame in these 1v1 trades, let alone the 2v2. Casablanca obviously came in a little bit too late and kind of got killed by... Oh my god, they're still fighting!
There is still fighting. Limsey low on mana, but able to get a good bit of damage down as Casablanca goes down. Donlosi on a killing spree. His pathing may not be standard, but Doctor, you cannot deny the amount of pressure this Poppy is exerting.
It's another death for Casablanca. He picked up 2 kills early on, but overstaying on the recall, meaning he gets punished by Limsey, and then now overstaying on an extended trade, meaning that he gives over another kill. Donlosi currently sitting at 3-0. I couldn't explain the jungle pathing here. I don't really know what's going on. I don't even think they know what's going on. It's very... Yeah.
Started because they thought they'd been invaded on the top side. I'm going to hold that thought because there's more fighting. Believe it or not, Donlosi and Synapse going to bash onto Schwame a little bit. Phoenix Fire Storm, the stun into the wall. And this time it's Synapse that picks up this kill, but this is terrifying. You give the Drake across, but you're getting Synapse on this champion that was banned away from him for so long. Such a big lead. And you can take grubs quite freely here. And meanwhile, this Kalista, who just wants to sit and get a lead, has at most 15 CS.
Yeah, I think regulars of the UKEL do know you gotta take Synapse's Udyr away. RIZE obviously newcomers, maybe they just don't know, and this is their lesson now. Synapse is gonna go 2-0-2 on the Udyr. Look at that CS lead in the top lane as well. 3 grubs picked up. Belfast Storm, they're looking like they are in a great position, and we go back to that conversation. You need to get this Kalista ahead. But what good is that if the front line of Belfast Storm are just accelerated like there's no goddamn tomorrow? Look at this Poppy, look at this Udyr. I don't believe a Kalista who is not getting accelerated in the game is going to be able to get through these tanks. I mean, Donlosi's not even... He's building bruiser items, and he might one-shot the Kalista himself instead of the other way around. So I'm concerned for RIZE heading into the mid game, and I think what they want to try to do is play through that Silas a bit more as Synapse is getting another kill.
No. The attempt to proxy has fallen astray. Juame really falling to the wayside in this game. 0-4-0 at 7 minutes. We're looking at a nearly 3,000 gold lead, not even 10 minutes into this game. Belfast Storm have come to make a statement, and it looks like RIZE are getting trapped in that storm.
Yeah, they are. The predictions were saying that this was going to be a close series, but Belfast Storm are just trying to prove everyone wrong. Yeah, we're yet to see any fighting, really, in the bot lane as well.
Which plays in Belfast Storm's favor, right? Sundax and Protection are happy to sit and scale. This Corki is very much a stat-checking champion, and he'll just get to a point where he can stat-check this Kalista as a Sora, possibly caught out in mid, but it looks like there is a fight in the bot lane. Finally, Sundax on a Shattering Strike to stop it. Limsey finds a beautiful Emperor's Divide to try and split the fight. Asura running for their life, but they will not run for long. The charge should come in soon. There it is. One more hammer shock to the face, and Asura goes back to the stands.
A game is very, very scary at 8 minutes if your Vice Silas is losing a 2v2 against a Poppy Azir. Of course, I know Poppy does great into both champions, but Azir at this point in the game should be lacking a lot of damage, and the Vice Silas should be able to kind of at least make that look close, but that didn't even look remotely even. It was a very one-sided 2v2 in the mid lane. This is going to get worse, by the way, as the Azir is scaling. One thing to note is that Limsey isn't actually going for the standard Nash's Tooth build. He is rushing that Haunting Guy, is probably going towards a Liandry's first, and then buying more damage items later on. So might lack a bit of DPS as bot lane fight.
There is a bot lane fight, but Dunlosi is here to try to even the score as Protection kills Dratiko, and Dunlosi picks up Scooby. It's the complete opposite of what you want as Rise.
Yeah,
Asura arrives a second too late, and Casablanca moves down, but there's nothing left to be found. Protection has to leave, sure. Dunlosi quite low, but it's just able to run for the hills. And there is no Keyblade in this lane for you, Asura.
Oh yeah, no, this is pain. This is pain left, right, and center. I think now they're starting to lose on every single front, top, mid, and bot lane. Rise, what options do you really have? Like, do they need to just throw the kitchen sink into one lane, send the Scion there, send the Alistar into the mid lane, try get this this Silas ahead, because that's kind of the only point that they currently have to work with. But everywhere else, it's a disaster. And I mean, he's dead. No, okay.
Nope.
Well, he's not dead.
Does
But...
flash. It's a 4,500 gold lead. We are 10 minutes into the game.
Yeah, that's it's a big number to say the least. And also, when you're comparing a scaling comp to a comp that wants to play for the early game, that's like a fake gold lead. Like, they're even more ahead. Schwame is probably good.
Is able to use the Unstoppable Onslaught to great effect there. Just dodge away from the Poppy stun, and because Poppy gets put where you were, not where you are, you're able to dodge the ult getting cancelled as well, so that dive kept off the cards. But of course, Dunlosi, happy to try this one again, has a lot of damage right about now. One more Hammer Shock, Keeper's Verdict just to keep him in place. Doesn't quite land it, has to start to back off. There is no Steadfast Presence. Does take the knock up from the Q, but there's no teleport coming in. Synapse just running at Juame. Does get cease and desisted under the tower, but it's fast enough to get away. That Ghost is doing wonders for this Udyr, as this top tower is next on the list of things for Synapse to take. Grubs have just spawned. There's fighting in the bot lane. Oathsworn was used to knock up Sundax, but it does not matter. There's a beautiful Magnet Storm, catches both of them. Dratiko, a auto from dead. The Rend does not enough damage to even matter as Scooby runs for the hills, and your Kalista is losing the 2v2.
Yeah, Kalista losing in the early game to the Corki in a 2v2. It's not a good look for Rice. And as the game is progressing, just as I said earlier, it's only going to get worse, and we're seeing the fights be ever more dominant by Belfast Storm. I think as these tier 1s are starting to get layered down and Rice get pushed back to the tier 2s, this is where objectives then become difficult to take. Dunlosi's just secured 6 scrubs. That side lane is going to be impossible to deal with. The idea of dying a lot on Sion is you get things back, like either plates or CS. He hasn't got anything back. He's just died and gotten nothing, really. And he's probably going to die again as Sharma getting caught.
Does look like it. Does manage to find the knock-up, but is stunned up. And will once again fall. Whose hand it will be to shall not matter. As that first tower was taken, feats have been secured for the Belfast Storm, and they are just increasing their gold lead. 6,500 gold at 12 minutes. They did not come to play. They came to slaughter.
Oh yeah, this is an absolute slaughter. These guys are being sent to their doom. I think Rice, not a good opener to the series. Of course, you are fortunate in the sense that you can kind of just... I mean, I don't want to say it's over yet, but you can kind of just focus on the next one. You don't need to worry too much about being eliminated just yet. But yeah, this is a rough one for Rise, and I mean, I'm trying to think, is there anything they can do in this particular game? I think maybe you can play for the soul here and try get that. That is kind of your only angle. But other than that,
giddy aunt.
The win conditions are very slim.
Plates haven't even fallen, and the top lane tier 2 is down.
Yeah, it's 13 minutes into this.
I have to ask, Savonix, how do you come back into this game as Rise? How do you come back from this and beat out the enemy composition? That scales better than you.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you just have to try and play for the soul. That's the only thing you got going for you. You can't really push anything. The siege in this draft isn't the most optimal. Getting through the wave clear of an Azir and the Corki is far impossible without Baron buffs. So yeah, it's literally play for soul, or it's you're gonna have no soul. There's, I think, a gank on the bot side.
We are. Scooby goes in on the aggressive, doesn't find protection, only finds Sundax. Dunlocy comes in and gets a lot of damage down onto Scooby. This Alistair has to pop the Unbreakable Will early, and the Osborne comes down. But Casablanca and Asura have arrived. Magnet Storm comes in, but it does not matter a huge amount. Scooby is the first one to fall. Now it keeps Verdict tags onto 2. Cease and Desist tags onto 1, and it's a trade of lives. For now, Protexion's on the front line, has to flash away from this Vi. Too much damage coming out. Tratico is on the front lines and will fall to Protexion. And it's a 2-for-1 in what looked like a fight that RIZE were the ones taking. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Synapse is just breaking their base.
Casablanca's gone in again, by the way.
Has he really? So he has. Good night, Casablanca. I appreciate the attempt to try and trade back there. Barrier used from Protexion, Flash used from Protexion. You have something going for you. Unfortunately, you're just a bit too far behind at this point. 8,000 gold in the lead at 15 minutes. Belfast Storm are not here for a long time. They're here for a good time.
Yeah, and I said when the game began at the very beginning, this is the new look of RIZE, their chance against a bog standard UK roster in a Belfast Storm. Looking good. Limsey, trouble.
Limsey might be a bit too far forward. Asura going to have to force the flash here, but with no cease and desist, he lives. A beautiful attempt by RIZE. I don't want to downplay that. That was a really attempt. Unfortunately, that Empress Divide was not used in the bot lane. It was still up and available, and it allowed this Azir so much space. It's so hard to catch a slippery champion like this. Meanwhile, Scooby is being bashed on by this Udyr. Dratiko arrives, looks to keep hitting. However, slowed by the Cryo Phoenix. Asura's in the area, could still keep looking. Not a huge amount of damage going down. Definitely a one trade towards Synapse, but ultimately, it doesn't really matter at this point how much damage you get down as Belfast Storm. If you're not killing, you're not doing enough, because you have to be able, have to be able to kill at this point if you're really looking to put the nail in the coffin.
Oh yeah, this is, I mean, Belfast Storm, I think they're just going to slowly take over the map. They're in no rush either. The scary part about this lead is they do outscale. I mean, they are outscaling right now. So this gold lead is just going to grow cumulatively over time. And now that we're seeing objective is going to be even more difficult to take with that tier 3 turret being taken down. Team RIZE, they are going for it, and I respect it. See a TP.
There is a TP as Synapse blocks the unstoppable onslaught from Drame with the unstoppable himself. The rest of Belfast Storm are on the bottom side of this fight looking. They are pincered. RIZE, they have to make a decision. They have to make it soon. In goes Sundax, finds the Magnet Storm onto multiple Asaurus in the backline, taking negative damage. A beautiful Emperor's Divide pushes everybody back. Limsey picks up a double kill. Joy is on the backline. Scooby's running for his life. Synapse is finishing the Herald. And there's nothing left for RIZE. It's a clean ace for the side of Belfast Storm. They're bashing them in the face with their wallets, and there is nothing left to be done. 10,000 gold in the lead. They run for the end.
That was probably the best chance RIZE had there. They played it pretty decently as well. Casablanca took away Limsey's Emperor's Divide and had a pretty good showing it. But Limsey said, I could do you one better, and just wiped everyone on the floor with his own Emperor's Divide. And, you know, Belfast Storm, they grab themselves that Herald. They break down that tier 2 in the mid lane and the bottom lane as well. And it's just a gold lead that's grown to insurmountable numbers. Synapse doesn't even care that there are 3 people surrounding him. He's probably just going to ghost his way out of here. And they're just going to play onto Asura.
Doesn't even ghost. Asura going to drop like butter to hot knife. As Dratiko is next on the list of Protection, goes unstoppable. And Scooby falls as well. RIZE, they've done what they can, but they certainly didn't rise to this occasion. Their base is the only thing left standing between Belfast Storm and taking the first game of this series in a dominant fashion. 18 minutes into the game, and the first inhib tower will spawn. With Joame and Casablanca being the last 2 standing Asuras up soon, this should just be the push for the inhib at Belfast Storm. They could be filling themselves, they could look for more, and that's exactly what they will do. The Nexus towers are being aggressed onto as Scooby finds a knock-up onto 2, but the Emperor's Divide pushes everybody away. Asura already half health as the Magnet Storm from Sundax keeps everybody locked up. Limsey's doing what he can with the damage. as is Protexian. But already it's a 1-for-1. It's a
Whoa.
2-for-1 in favor of RIZE as things stand. Synapse and Dunlosy running away. Protexian wasn't even in the fight, excuse me, as Casablanca now next on this will fall. Dunlosy going quite low, but Tratiko has so much. Will get the Ren, will fall to Synapse. It's just Schwame left. This at a 2 versus 4. They've turned it entirely in their favor, and Schwame can do nothing to this Udyr with 20-second death times on everybody other than jungle and support. You have to imagine they back up. But no, Synapse is continuing to go for the end here. Juame's taking the reset. They take the first Nexus tower. As Protexian comes down the mid lane, they can look for this inhibitor as well. But Asura, Juame, and Scooby are all here, ready, waiting, looking for that little bit of extra gold back. But it's 14,000 gold in the lead. It's so hard at this point. The Synapse is still boxing onto this Alistar. Happy to just run at him with no remorse. Scooby, one hit from there. Juame looking to do what he can as Protexion is now being engaged onto by Casablanca. Will be able to get away for now, but will fall to Asura in the end. Synapse is backing out as Sunnex is left in the middle of 4 people on his own. Will be the next one on the list. Rended within an inch of his life.
Am I watching UKL playoffs, or is this like some random Earth game that's being shown on my
solo
screen?
queue game.
Like there's just fights over fights over fights. There is a dragon to play for. RIZE actually have an opportunity to pick up Soul Point here. The bot lane of Belfast Storm are dead, but it does
Look
look
at
like
Belfast Storm, they're just sprinting down mid lane.
they're just beelining it for the base.
They are looking just for the inhib, it would seem, for now. Scooby doing what he can to keep them away from it as a good knockup comes in. Casablanca has respawned. Second Nexus Tower does fall. Limsey is on the flank. Keeper's Verdict will knock Scooby back to the stands. And they just leave. They've taken the Nexus Towers. They've taken a second inhibitor. They basically say, okay, next time we get close to your base, you better hope you can kill all 5 of us before we can kill your Nexus.
Yep, this is crazy. I don't know what the hell is going on. Why is it 28-9? This is a competitive game, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on? I have no idea. But I mean, gosh, if there's a reminder to ban Synapse as Udyr, this is it. Friendly reminder to the whole league. If you don't know what's going on, this guy is an absolute beast on this champion, and you gotta take it off him. This is what he can do. He can rip you apart individually. That was a 2v4 on the bottom side that he just completely tore RIZE to shreds. And Belfast Storm are standing in the base of RIZE right in front of them.
They're just playing with time. All 5 members strong now. Nexus Tower is about a minute out of respawning. If they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it now. Verdict knocks Synapse away, but there are still 4 members strong. They've found their way onto Limsey, but the Emperor's Divine tags onto 4, and there's 2 ultimates have to be blown to get back onto his face. But in the meantime, he takes 1, Protexian takes 2, and suddenly, RIZE! They've been ripped apart in their own base, and Belfast Storm secure game number 1.
Wow, this was a game, wasn't it?
That was something. I'm not sure what I'd call it. There's some choice words, but I don't think any of them I can say on air. So it was a stomp. Belfast Storm definitely came in with RIZE's number. So good job, Belfast Storm? Question mark, maybe? I think they played it really well.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part of what I'm about to see is how the analyst desk is going to break this down as opposed to the actual game, because I'm like, gosh. What do you say about that? That was just
my voice is dead. I'm a happily take the break between now and game 2. But the analyst desk, they had to watch all of that and then discuss it, and then they're going to break it down for you as well. So 0-7 to our fallen comrades. That game was really something.
Yep, really was.
Hello.
Okay, I assume we're now live and being heard. Cool. All right, let's talk about the game. So that
We're ready to
was
go, don't worry.
truly not what I expected in game number 1. Absolutely not what I expected. I doubt it's what many people expected, but the Synapse Udyr, we've seen it a lot. We've seen the highs, we've seen the lows. This was maybe, if not the highest high of the Synapse Udyr I have ever seen. What a blowout from that topside Blogzer.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Synapse loves the Poppy. We know Dunlossy's, we know they love these picks. Were we expecting this, though? I mean, Zume just died and then died and then died, and I think it was about the 5th death
Yeah.
where we were looking at each other and we were like, this is painful to watch, actually. Like, at this point, yikes. I think at some point you were like, is he going for the bousey? Like, is he trying to make this
Yeah,
work
is
through
this
deaths?
intentional at
But
this
he
point?
wasn't getting farm every time he died, which is like the key factor, right? You're trading your life for something else, but there was no trade. He was just losing out. And it meant that once the top side of the map crumbled, nothing else was going right whatsoever. It's felt like the entire time we were watching everybody get just sort of chased around by this Poppy Udyr combo. The rest of the map barely mattered until the very end. It was just the top side.
Yeah, and Frisky, we do have a replay of where the game ended, which was right here, and it was Signups and Dunlosi. Who else?
Well, yeah, they obviously got the Rise invade. They try to take advantage of maybe them thinking the Udyr and the Poppy aren't as strong yet, but they just completely underestimate what
They are.
this does early on. You got the Doran's ring on the Udyr. You just let him use his ultimate, get the empowered so he can throw it, and then just they don't have enough damage on the side of the Scion and the Vi early on. Dunlosi easy just stays there, cleans up a couple kills, and they just start running amok. They just get this Udyr super powered because they already know that he can be oppressive in lane. If the Scion isn't able to do anything about it, then he just 1v1s and he just absolutely smashed that lane into pieces.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
And
was also directly after, right? Casablanca gets a solo. So it wasn't
yeah,
completely bad. And then that happens around the top jungle area, and that's all she wrote, apparently.
yeah, we were questioning the Silas and then wondering, like, what is the reason this has been taken? And we kind of settled on, well, it must just be an Azir answer because there's just no other real connection we can find. And just as we came to that conclusion, bam, Casablanca solo kill. Like, okay, cool, it's an Azir answer. Love that. And then just as soon as we had that hope kind of sparked, it just started to go horrendously wrong for Rise. And the end, what did the end? It's 20-3 in kills, worse,
Yeah.
right? That was even, I didn't
Like
even start pushing the
32 to
Nexus at that
11
point.
by the end, yeah.
Yeah, like there was a bit of shenanigans at the end, but ultimately there was just nowhere to go at this point. Now, there was a moment, as we can see in this second replay block, so where there was a bit of fight in Rise. They did try to bring it back here.
Yeah, this was about the best team fight that we ever actually got to see, other than right at the end, I guess, where Belfast were kind of just running it down for fun. They'd already got themselves an insurmountable lead. Throughout this entire fight, right, Jotiko's just sat and hitting. This is a very untouched Callista for the majority of this fight. And watch her. Watch her tickle the opponents and do basically nothing, because
What I
unfortunately,
say?
Asura never got ahead, so you were never able to use that Vi to spread the love, get everybody else a little bit of a lead that you need. When the Callista is ahead, you would be melting in that situation. Your 2 items, 1.5 items, maybe even at that point in the team fight, you're shredding through the people in front of you. That's a 1 team fight. It's good in the way that the pieces are moving around right here for Rise, but they're just so far behind at this point that it doesn't matter.
That's why I have so much problems with the Callista. It's just if you don't get it ahead early on, I mean, in these team fights, you can't really use it to come back. It doesn't have any little extra burst that some other champions, some other hyperscaling champions may have, even if they're not super strong. But I think Rise had a ton of good team fights. How they set up. They had Casablanca going in, either using Rel's Magnet Storm or using Emperor's Divide. You obviously had the scenario where you get like the sandwich of both Emperor Divides slamming in on each other. They set up really well for this Callista to do. It's just no Callista. Obviously, we know my feelings on Callista now. It's very well apparent. But at the same time, just keeping this top lane less settled, because you had that team fight in the bot lane in the late game. It actually went the side of Rise, but the Synapse just was doing Synapse things and just destroying the base. So it's pretty much just don't lose things early on. And I think Rise can just take the fact that they did okay in these team fights, and that's how they're going to be able to adapt into the second game.
Yeah, right. That there was from some sides, you kind of have to look at it from Rise and go, forget it, right? Washout game, just depressing, not good for anyone's mental to think about that one, right? But there were moments where they could go, okay, we did manage to, despite what happened in the first kind of 20 minutes, we managed to try and put something together. Now, it just wasn't workable, and the game was not winnable, right, beyond that point. But they didn't completely fold. They can hopefully go into game 2 with at least some kind of remnants of mental game to try and recover this best of 3 series. Just before we go to a break, we have had it confirmed that they have chosen red side. They have actually eschewed all of the entire winter split on the globe's kind of trend, and they've gone for the red side. So they are still happy giving away the first pick and taking the counter. We'll see if they can do more of it in that second game. For now, we are going to go to a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes as the series continues. Welcome back, everybody, and we are rocketing straight into the draft. We already did the desk before break. We got that out of the way. So now it's time for game number 2. And Belfast Storm, we love their draft going into game number 1. It was classic Belfast fare, all the way down to Dunlosi, Poppy, and Synapse Studio. Now, I mean, they're back on blue side, right? So there's not really any reason to expect much difference here. But RIZE is the question, right? We need to see what RIZE is going to do, because their game 1 plan blocker, it stunk. All right, it did not work, and they didn't do it very well. So what are we doing here now? What's the pivot?
I think you still have to try play early. I don't think RIZE have shown us the sort of late game prowess that means that you can pivot into a full late game based composition. I think they still need something to try to take them through the early game, but Azora really wasn't able to get things going too much in that jungle on the Vi, and that's one of the best pickups for that. I think really what they need to do is try play through Casablanca even more. We talked about how the Silas was just sort of a, hey, it beats my lane opponent pick. Well, maybe you can find something that both beats the lane opponent and can work really well around these skirmishes early on. Try to get through ahead that way, because it seems right now Casablanca's the only one able to win their lane.
We have at least banned Udyr. So this was
Improvements.
one that you were both expecting from about 5 minutes into game number 1, is that we would not see the Udyr again, and such is true. Now, I don't know if this means we're going to see Shrame just go back to the Scion and go, this was an Udyr problem, or if there is something else that they're going to opt for here. Besides that, the Ezreal ban has been... Was that present in game number 1? I feel like they left it through.
I don't think
And
they
then
did ban
Dratiko...
It was
Yeah,
banned
Dratiko
game
just went...
1, yeah.
It was banned, okay.
Sure. Okay, sure. So we saw the Callista still at the end of that one, and we're still not going to see the Ezreal, so they're still trying to... Evidently didn't think much of the Callista, I suppose, as the
Exact
Corki is
same
the
ban
final
from
ban.
Belfast.
For sure. And then Corki's the final ban for RIZE. So we're going to see a different B1 from BFS. You know, maybe we just drop the Limsy Azir Raw in the front, but
Yeah, just
instead
take the Vi.
maybe...
Yeah.
Just take the
No,
Vi
just
away.
take
You were
the
mentioning
Vi,
the
yeah.
priority in game number 1.
I mean, it's easy to take away the Vi here. You know, obviously you saw RIZE having the priority on it. You're now going to have the aggression you want in the early game. They're not picking Garen. Don't worry about that. Everyone can calm down from there. But I think what Bloxer said about how important it is that they get on the early game, it's certainly going to be important in the bot lane as well. They were able to play really around Casablanca and how well he could set up the team fights. And now it's just going to depend on, can you have a hyper carry that can do more damage? Clearly the Callista wasn't working. Now you need something that can at least do a little bit more in the early game. Maybe something like Varus that can still translate well into the late game, has some CC, can obviously poke well in the early game. I think that's going to be a much better priority. They'd have to be able to translate from the early game to the mid game much better if they want a chance of winning.
The Azir takeaway, trying to deny Limsy the Limsy special. Obviously, there's a couple more mages that we tend to see out of this guy, but Casablanca taking that choice still gives some playmaking for this mid laner. Xin as well was banned away by RIZE in game number 1, I believe. So they have given the Vi over. They've taken the Xin, so a very versatile pick for Azora. It is strong in the early game as well. It does give them a very scrappy kind of spearhead, as it were, to push through. Now, for Belfast Storm, we'll see if there's going to be any more material differences, because you cannot go for the Limsy Azir. You've already got a different jungler for Dunlosi, but still one that can get stuck in early on. And the Akali coming out here, presumably for Limsy into the Azir. So we're once again seeing a kind of AD, or not AD, a melee sort of assassin almost in the lane we should see coming in here. So maybe we'll see if Limsy can do what to Casablanca, what was done to him the first time around.
Maybe you play Akali AD, but let's not go into your
Yeah, I cannot play Akali no matter what I'm building. I cannot play this champion. Does not matter.
Certainly AD wouldn't help. Now you've got the Mbessa going in.
No.
Obviously, blind is a pretty good thing. Now you're going to have Synapse, who's also on something really aggressive. It's going to then, maybe, Jaume just goes right back to Scion. I mean, I can see that. It's just, if you don't get, if you don't have a ton of ganks from the Vi and you don't get super behind, it can handle the Mbessa relatively well. Maybe not get ahead, but staying even in that lane is what you want, especially because now you're going to need a lot of support on this mid lane, because I'm sure Limsy is going to want revenge on Casablanca, the kind of other side. Now you got to have the bad Azir game. But I think the Azir is just better for RIZE overall. I think it's a great takeaway, because now you have Casablanca who can set up these team fights on like the best team fight setting up mid laner that can do it on its own with the Emperor's Divide, with the Shurima Shuffle. That's going to be great. I think they need to fight kind of how Belfast fought last time, where it was they let RIZE come into them. They let them use a couple of ultimates, not necessarily get enough, but then re-engage with the Azir ultimate. I think that's going to be what RIZE needs.
Yeah, it was a good start. Now we're back into the second round again, and now the support bans are starting to come out. Yeah, RIZE taking away 2, Belfast taking away 1. With the Draven as well, just Loki taken away. The Rel comes out nice and quickly for RIZE, expecting that one. So they are yoinking a lot of picks straight away from Belfast right there. pairing it with the Shrame Scion, and we'll see what Belfast Storm is going to have as the answer. See some bot lane, and they're back to the Vayne
Oh my
with the
God.
Lulu. We have seen this from Protection at least once. It was very good. He was channeling Vayne God Damn. We'll see if he can do it again. But this time they've actually gone with the Enchanter pairing, which is not common for some decks. Normally we see him go for something a bit more kind of melee. The Braum, honestly, is normally what we see from him.
Exactly, but they banned it away in this situation, and I really like the Lulu here because you've already got the bruisery front line that you need from the Vi and the Ambessa. There's no reason for you to need to pair it up with another heavily engaged-based support. You just need to keep your main carries alive right here. The response, too, is going to be the Samira, and this is basically RIZE laying down the gauntlet, because this is another composition that can team fight really well. If you can get that good engage going between Zume and Asura, this can be huge with the sort of wombo combo abilities that this composition has. At the same time, though, it feels like another one where if you fall behind early, yeah, sure, the Azir can build itself up later on. You know, you can kind of get to that point. I don't know that you want to, though. I don't know that you want to be trying to roll this one into the late stages of the game, because that's when Belfast Storm is going to get 2 items and just one tap whoever they're near.
So it seems like Dratiku really just wants to fight today. Just really wants to dive. Callista game 1, Samira game 2, Frisky into Vayne Lulu, into Lulu? Is this well thought out, or have we borked it?
I'm not sure, because the Vayne Lulu picks are just excellent. I think that's Vayne is a relatively sleeper ADC right now. I think she's super strong. Pairing her with the Lulu, I think that they can be super dominant in lane, even against something like a Rel. They only, Rel can only be paired with so many ADCs at that point. So I think they knew that the Vayne with the more mobility was going to be the better option. So it's really going to be down to these 2v2s. If the Samira gets behind, it's going to be over, and the Vayne will just kind of carry the game, kind of the opposite of what happened in the top lane. But I think if they can get to these team fights and do what I said about re-engaging really well, especially now with the Samira ult, I think RIZE can take it. It's all going to be dependent on that bot lane early on.
Sure. Okay. Eyes on the bot lane early on. A bit of hands checking maybe to be done. We need to see the Samira pop off, and we'll see if the Scion can redeem itself after game number 1 as well. For now, let's go to the casters. Game number 2 between Belfast Storm and RIZE coming right up.
Thank you, Trajan and Co. Welcome back, everybody, to game number 2 of Belfast Storm versus RIZE 1 Up. I am still Luna. I am still joined by Savonix.
Yo! What's up? What's up? Yeah, this second game. Listen, okay. I think I really like the fact that RIZE, I was kind of saying it in the green room, I like the fact that RIZE didn't just like sit there and slowly lose. I like that they kind of flipped it. But they've gone for a very polarizing team comp. You have a Samira, who, similar to Callista, likes to get ahead early, wants to take a lot of fights in the bot lane. Then you have an Azir, who kind of wants to take it slow. I mean, based off last game, you don't need to take it slow on Azir. But, it's very, very interesting to kind of see the profile of either early game or late game on the composition of RIZE. Whereas on Belfast Storm, this is very much a let's dive that back line and one-shot them, because I think Vayne does really well into Samira because of the Condemn actually can interrupt the ultimate from Ratico. So you have a lot of tools here from Belfast Storm to prevent the champions of RIZE from doing what they want.
Yeah, I mean, as an AD carry player myself, I am almost never taking Samira into Lulu because you have Polymorph and Wild Growth that just kind of make your life a living, breathing hellscape. So, Tratico definitely throwing the gauntlet down in this game. So we'll see if anything comes of that. We can see Scooby just trying to get a little bit of vision on the enemy bot side here, while there's some trading in the mid lane between Limsey and Casablanca. Limsey, big fan of Yakali, tend to see it a good bit when the Azir is gone and doesn't want something like the Syndra or the Orianna, which is the other couple of mages that are synonymous with Limsey in the UK League of Legends scene. Other than that, standard picks across the board. So we didn't get to hit the death predictions. So before we get into the meat of this game, Savonix,
Yep.
what do you reckon?
Well, listen, I think this game, Belfast Storm, I think one factor that I always dodge off with team compositions and draft is ease of execution is so important at this level, because I really do think, obviously we have fantastic players, but the complexities of executing a difficult draft we're not quite at that level yet here at the EKL. So I think This is where a composition like what Belfast Storm have here today, it is very reliant on mechanics. Like, if Protection can play these team fights hinge perfectly against this Samira, then yes, the Vayne has the advantage, similar to the Akali and the Mbessa. But then again, these are conditions that are so difficult to pull off. Not saying that they can't, but it always makes you, it gives that factor over to RIZE that they have a composition that is just a lot easier to pull off. You have a front line, you have engage, you have late game DPS later on. And so I think based off that, I'm going for RIZE in this game.
It's a valid assessment to be made, no less. We'll see if it does stand true and if the series will go to 1-1 or if Belfast Storm will take a clean 2-0 against RIZE. I am going to reserve my judgment because I could see both of these comps winning. And I think Belfast Storm might be with an easier time than you would think, because how do you deal with overwhelming dive other than turn on the things diving your backline? Speaking of overwhelming dive, tower dive in the top lane as Synapse more than happy to take first blood there and just buys so much space with that passive.
Yeah, a little confusing. Jungle fight here as well.
Certainly is. 3 talent strike, flash forward from Dunlosy, flash away from Asura. Blastcomb will take him to safety as Limsey just goes slipping back into the mid lane. Meanwhile, Protection has gotten a 2v2 kill onto Scooby in the bottom side. During that, we'll have a look and see how that happened just here. Condemn into the wall off of Vision. Happy to just flash forward for that last auto. Cancels the shattering strike as well. As Protection and Sundax just force Dratiko back. Very nicely done from this bot lane.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing about Vayne, right, of course, is it's a champion that is historically known to have a power spike later on into the game. But what Lulu does as an enchanter is it does actually make these late game champions in the laning phase do a lot of damage. Speaking of, Casablanca just ate a bunch of it to the face, but Asura is here.
Trade of kills in the bot lane, dive to secure feet, so Dratiko and Protection trade their lives. Limsey being forced away by Asura in the mid lane as the wind becomes lightning goes a little bit wide. Just going to take the reset on that one. And as you were saying, absolutely, the Lulu combated a lot of the early trials and tribulations of these late game scaling AD carries, but of course we can't ignore that Vayne, definitely one of those AD carries that gets a big spike at 6. So if you can, even get a lead pre-6, things get very scary for your opponent.
Yeah, and speaking of Lulu, I actually have a friend who convinced me that electrocute Nash's Tooth Lulu is a thing.
I hate to say it, but they're not wrong.
Well, in the game I saw it, they were definitely wrong. Anyway,
oh yeah,
I'm joking. Okay, I mean, yeah, it's a good start for Belfast Storm. Feats of warfare secured already. There was a 2v2 happening in the bot side, and I think, I hope for RIZE that they aren't repeating the mistakes of their past, because we saw in that last game they had a comp where they needed to get ahead early. They didn't. They just threw the kitchen sink at the wall. I understand you have to do that, but in a game like this, you have an Azir. You don't need to do it this time around. Really hope they just relax a little bit, because they're starting to show seeds of what happened in the last game, of just repeated fights and repeated deaths, and they have an Azir to rely on, so they don't really need to be going this aggressive.
No, you can play this game a lot slower if you are RIZE. You have a little bit of that late game insurance. Of course, the Samira isn't an amazing scaler, but she isn't a slouch either. She does have a good bit of damage once you hit that point. Dragon going to be started up by RIZE, as Dunlosy just going to sit in this bot lane, have a little bit of a cheeky look for a lane gank while this Dragon is being done. So Protection and Sundax can just bait something in here, but with Casablanca moving down as well, it's going to be a 3 versus 4 tumble on cooldown. Level 5 and level 4 as Scooby uses the speed to get in. Casablanca comes in, but the Empress Divide goes a little bit wide. Dunlosy finds the Q onto Scooby, but it's not quite enough. It's a 3 versus 3 at present. Dratiko finds the way onto Dunlosy. It's first kill going across the Casablanca. Protection unable to kill off Scooby on the backside, now trying to get what damage down he can onto the rest of the team. Unfortunately, he is left between a rock, a hard place, and several different sand soldiers.
Okay, a little bit of a goofy one on the Shurima shuffle there from Casablanca, but at the end of the day, what RIZE did here was really, really effective. They had that bot wave in a particular place where Protection and Sundax knew we have to get this shoved in, or else we are in a big amount of trouble. They don't get it shoved in on time. They are on the Dragon Pit, and they move down to the bot side, and then just punish the overextension from the bot lane there. And Protection gives over some kills. I think Asura picked up the kill into the Vayne. Seems like Casablanca picked up one as well. And so this is a really, really nice play from the RIZE side on the bottom lane. And I think it's going to pick them up off the back of a really rough start, going 3-1 down in kills. I think right now the Azir, again, going for the Liandry's into Berserker Greaves build, as opposed to going for straight DPS. But yeah, Casablanca having really nice roam into the bot lane. You don't really see Azir roaming too much, but if you can get something off of it, it's always worth it.
It certainly is. We're back to a bit of a standard game state that we would kind of expect at this point. Grub's being done by Dun low C as we speak, so it is 1 objective to 1 with the Feat of Warfare. Part of the Feats of Strength going across to Belfast Storm, so it is 1 objective apiece. So we'll see who can start to pull ahead on that come the next objective in about 3 minutes' time. For now, level 6 is coming in across the board. Level 7 for Limsey and Casablanca, 8 for Synapse, 7 for Jouame, and 6 for both of these AD carries. If we're going to start to see any big blowout fights, it'll be within the next couple of minutes.
Yep, definitely. So I think what RIZE kind of want to do here is just keep these this mid wave pushed as much as possible. I think it does leave the Azir open for solo kills, but if you can move around the map with the Emperor of Shurima and the Xin Zhao, it can open some opportunities like this one right here.
Certainly can. Asura not going to get caught on vision, but Protection and Sundax can sniff something out a mile away. Aren't too happy with the aggressive positioning of Scooby and decide to back all the way up. And they say that it is dogs that have good noses, but Scooby was the one sniffing for danger.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was like, damn, they actually can kind of sense that gank coming through. Maybe Scooby's positioning gave that one away, but I was like, no vision on the Xin Zhao, and they kind of knew that the gank was coming. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think right now there's a setup for a possible play happening on the bottom side, and I'm seeing the item advantage here. It does look pretty good for the Samira with the Soraka Dirk, so I think if a 3v3 happened, Samira could have an edge, so probably would want to avoid that if you're Belfast Storm. Of course, Vayne Lulu is very strong, but Lulu still yet to be level 6. To either support to be level 6, and so just a quiet period in the game right now. It's a dead phase. There's not really much to play for, but as I say that, Asura is looking.
Certainly is. Sundax is forced to flash away. Protection pops that final hour, and Scooby just gets shredded. That final hour giving such a big increase as now they're looking onto Asura. Just going to push them away for now, though. And there's another kill in this Vayne's back pocket. 4 and 2 at 10 minutes. A dive onto Dratiko on the card. You can see Dunlosi and Sundax positioning at the back there. Protection going to step under the tower first, but Asura's come back down and looks like it's just going to be called off. More than happy to take the gain of pressure.
I am actually so impressed with what the Belfast Storm bot lane did there, and I hope they did this intentionally, but you saw the Xin Zhao walk over a ward, but they didn't back off because they wanted to actually bait the Xin Zhao coming in, and Sundak had that flash on the trigger finger on the flash already for that Scooby engage to punish as soon as it came through. It's almost like they knew if a fight was to come, we would win it if you know, certain conditions were to happen, and it kind of just happened exactly how it did, or at least when I saw that they weren't backing off the gank, I was assuming that is exactly what they were going for. So big props to Sundax. That was a beautiful reaction flash to get out of that. It left Scooby in a sticky situation because he was just stuck there after having used the flash already, and a kill for the Vayne.
Now, gonna go back to standard assignments. Dragon coming up in 3 seconds as Public Execution going a little bit wide there. As Limsey being aggressed on in the mid lane, but Sundax here to back him up. A lot of damage going down though as the Empress Divide goes wide once again. Perfect Execution was used. The knockup comes through. The Wild Growth will keep Limsey alive for now as Shatiko moves down. R2 used to get safety down low. Currently stuck in the pit, trying to take this dragon down. Will get the smite. Decides to keep going with the fight for the Vault Breaker. Does have flash available. Cease and assist onto Dratiko. Flashes backwards. Protecting's on the back line completely uncontested, doing everything he can to managing not to take the first kill, but will take Dratiko in turn. Asura next on the list. He's kiting so well. He'll go down eventually to Scooby, but it's a 2v2 in a situation that should never have been in Belfast Storm's favour.
Protection hit the drop on the drum and bass in the background, 100%. There's no way he did not have some crazy beats going on there. What in the world was that? He just kites 2 people whilst being stuck in the Dragon Pit. That was a really nice little Bermuda Triangle that Casablanca drew to get out of there. But what that did is it left the rest of RIZE with no DPS to kill off that Vayne. And Protection, having Sundax over the wall, felt confident to play it out. And in such a tight, small space, was able to pull it off perfectly. He goes 6 kills up in this game, out of 7 as well. This Vayne is looking like it's going to be the main character of this show.
Certainly is, and a full Blade of the Ruin King in back pocket as well means Vayne's going to be no small task to kill. That front line going to start to get eviscerated the second the Silver Bolts start flying. That being said, for now, it is just a 3,000 gold lead in favour of Belfast Storm, a far cry to where we were at this point in time last game. Feats of strength are once again claimed for Belfast Storm, with the second set of grubs and that dragon picked up. We'll have to take it as Dunlosi. Going to get caught out by Asura here. Flash over from Joame will find the Q as the public execution comes in. The ultimate is blocked from the Scion, but Synapse is happy to keep taking this fight. It's a trade of 1-for-1 for now. Synapse just going to keep pushing Joame back. A beautiful collapse coming in there from Synapse, even if Dunlosi is made to give his life.
Yeah, 2v2, but Ambessa is an Arcane champion and was released in 2024. So you get double buffs there in terms of how broken you can be, and it's 2 kills for Synapse in this game. We're seeing a dive in the bot side.
Certainly are. Limsey comes in with that shuriken flip, doesn't quite find it, but the perfect execution will find its mark in Scooby's chest. Protection fires one final bolt at Dratiko and the demon is felled. A perfectly executed dive. Asura is now in on the action. One more so should do it, but the Emperor's Divide just snags Protection, and the bot lane will fall to Asura and Casablanca, respectively. We do have a little bit of a pause coming in. Seems connection issues for Joame in this top side. It caught in a fight with Synapse, the internet drops.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big shutdown to go over to Casablanca, I must say. And I think if you're kind of looking at RIZE this game, we were discussing about how, at least I hope RIZE don't just like start forcing a bunch of random fights. And whilst they have, and Dratiko and Scooby have kind of suffered for it, the two that have benefited off that is Asura and Casablanca. They have been picking up kills kind of off the back end of a lot of these fights. Like Belfast Storm went for the dive there, and they came in to clean up the mess at the end. Good sportsmanship. Yeah, go on, Synapse. Respect. Up the Synapse. But yeah, going back to my point, I think, yeah, Casablanca and Asura, the mid-jungle, you two are going to have to be the ones to pull this comeback through. Oh, wait. That's not sportsmanship. Nah.
Well, to be fair, he let him get back under his tower and then just said, all right, you're mine.
Nah.
Back into a pause. It seems we're having connection issues all across the back of RIZE.
That's a minute of silence for me, honestly. You gotta pay him, pay him his dues.
Look at it this way. That's Synapse's flash gone for no real reason other than funny, hee.
True. I mean,
small wins.
Fair enough. I mean, the Ambessa is. To be fair, Shawarma has kind of been struggling all throughout this series so far. Interesting thing, probably worth discussing, right? Is he's come into this roster, picked up the Scion, looked decent against Paragon, but remember you mentioning something like, if there's a top laner who is going to punish the newcomers of this league, it is going to be Synapse.
Absolutely. Synapse able to detect when someone maybe isn't as comfortable in their role or has just started to pick it up properly and will run with that. you can't punish me for my tempo mistakes. I can kind of just do what I please, and there isn't much to be said outside of that. And I think this series has shown it quite a lot off of memory. Jouame, a mid lane main who's come in to play top lane with this roster and hasn't had too bad a showings because Synapse is exposing those weaknesses tenfold in this series, doing everything that he can to give Belfast Storm the fast track to the next stage of playoffs. And by Lord, is he doing it incredibly well.
Yeah, he's having such a great series. And what's interesting, right, is in the midst of all the chaos that's happening across the map, I feel like Synapse has just kept his cool, you know, played out his lane, joins the chaos later, and just runs rampant. So I really like Synapse. I love watching him play. I think another layer to his gameplay was, I always thought, really proficient on tanks, but not so much on these bruiser champions. But on the Zambesa, he's looking absolutely fantastic and really growing into his own, as you can see on this Belfast Storm roster. I think in the last 2 splits, I've been super impressed with what he can do. And Jouame, sadly, will have to suffer for that.
Certainly will. I mean, I haven't seen Synapse play the carry champion since he was with me back in 2021, 2022 time. And he was definitely good at them then, and he's showing that he still can be now. I'd love to see it as someone who's worked with this player individually before. That being said, he's not the only member of this team. Belfast Storm are playing incredibly well as a unit with this Herald crashing into mid lane. That tower will fall, and the map truly opens up for the Storm. Excuse me, I'm choking on air. Really opens up for the Storm to find their way. It's going to get flashed on. Shattering Strike comes down. Knockout comes in from the Wild Growth to cancel out the crash down. Texian just getting what damage down he can. A good Q across the wall into Cease and Desist onto Casablanca. Dunlosis is a bit too far back deep. Limsey comes in, able to dodge away from the Emperor's Divide somehow. I'm not entirely sure how. Synapse has got a solo kill on the other side of the fight. Dratiko is able to kill Dunlosi, but will fall to Limsey instead of Protection is running down the enemy. Synapse more than happy in the side lane if Texian kills Casablanca, and it's just a Sora left, and there's a Lulu at the Veins back, and the Eclipse is not enough. It's a sweep and an ace coming in for Belfast Storm, only losing Dunlosi.
I don't understand. Like, you did this last game, it didn't work. Are they just like, yeah, but guys, it'll work this time. Trust me. Like, come on. How many times are RIZE going to just throw everything at some random fight? That wasn't even around the dragon. The objective here was spawned. You had a Drake to play for, but then they just force a fight near the mid side. Into this Vayne, who is basically collecting Infinity Stones as if it's his job, and they're just not gonna win the fights. Like the Samira goes in and doesn't come back. Like that's what's been going on these fights, and I'm really confused as to what the game plan is for RIZE. Is it sort of just like we're not free next week, so we might as well just, you know, try our best? I don't know. Don't really know what's going on.
the Emperor's Divide not tagging onto Limsey is a bit wild to me. It looked like Limsey went flying into it, but maybe that's just my eyesight being poor. That's entirely possible.
Yeah, no, there is as a player, what can I say? There is a really weird interactions with the Emperor's Divide. Sometimes Akali is a champion that can get through that. Silas E as well. Oh, they're going for another fight.
Emperor's Divide tags onto 2, and immediately Protexian and Sundax are blown up. Dunlosi went looking for Casablanca on the side and missed him by inches, and it cost his bot lane their life. Now Dunlosi is stuck in the enemy jungle, gonna get knocked up into 3 Talon Strike. You don't get to play this game, Dunlosi. Casablanca picks up his 3rd of this game and shrugs off everything that happens, teleport into the mid lane from Limsey to defend against this Samira, knowing there was little left to be done bot lane.
Ooh. What's that? A taste of my own medicine. I'm eating my words over here. They RIZE just said, what the hell are you saying? We're just gonna force another fight and win it. In all fairness, I don't know what the Belfast Storm bot lane were really doing there. There was nothing there, but at the same time, you gotta respect it. I think what RIZE did there was, you know, eventually I guess you'll catch them sleeping. Protection and Sundax overextended in the bot side. Jouame with a really nice hold on that Sion Q as Limsey was sorry, not Limsey, Dunlosi was exiting in the Gromp, but for another fight here.
They are. Up comes the turret, and Asura going to get out with a good chunk of his HP gone. Walking into Sundax and Protection does not feel like the world's smartest idea with how fed this Vayne is, but seems to work out okay as Limsey just going to battle on against Dratiko here. taking half health in Q auto Q, you know, as you do. Artican up and available in this bottom side. And it looks like with the number of resets coming in, if Belfast Storm are aware of this, they could just collapse on it immediately. And it looks like that is the play. You can see a lot of people hanging around, not been started just yet. I feel like Artican, little bit of a bait objective sometimes. Does a lot of damage for really little reward. It is the better of the two, though. It is the 25% Epic Monster Boon increase and a load of Blood Petals. So they do have that going for them, at least. And it does melt thanks to Protection. Vayne, so incredibly strong. It's already gone before RIZE can think.
Yeah, there's a certain team I'm very familiar with that basically throw every game at the Artican, but that was very nice from Belfast Storm. I have to say, there was, you know, kind of control taken over on basically all the lanes, so there was no way for RIZE to get on top of that. Really nice macro there, shoving the waves, then go for the objective instead of just randomly going for the objective without having priority anywhere, because RIZE had to catch the waves and couldn't get anywhere close to the river, let alone the bottom side of where that Artican was. They have to concede that objective. But yeah, this is the Ruinous Artican, 25. Oh, actually, Limsey, he's fine.
He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Sure, flip.
Yeah, Ruinous Artican, 25% increase on the objective buff. So it's like, I think at face value, everyone's like, oh, the Voracious Artican's so broken. But with the right champions, with the right soul, this Artican is so powerful. As one-side collapse seems to be happening here.
Certainly does. When comes Lightning, going to miss onto Protection, but the Audacious Charge goes in nonetheless. Donlosi playing Appeal, and in comes Scooby, finds the perfect engage onto Protection, and he is locked in the air, not allowed to play the game, completely annihilated from the map. That you may have a Lulu, but you don't have enough survivability to survive a nuclear bomb. Scooby going to get caught by the cease and desist. Will be the next one to fall as Synapse goes unstoppable. Limsey looking into the fight. Does use perfect execution to get to safety. Cease and desist used onto Casablanca. Synapse is running rampant. He's been left in a side lane to do his own thing. And there is nobody left on this map to contest him. It's a triple kill, and Asura does what he can to buy himself space, buy himself time, but there's nothing to be bought except a couple of seconds before you meet your demise at the Draken slice slash whatevers that Synapse is holding. It's a quadra kill, whether official or not, for Synapse in the bottom side, and you thought the Vayne was the problem, but Synapse knocks on your door and says hello.
Hello, RIZE. Meet my friend Synapse. You haven't been having him in these fights, but now 22 minutes into the game, he appears in the bottom side for this little skirmish, and he just wipes the floor with everyone. It's like, RIZE, yeah, you're making these small little picks, you're gathering hope, and then suddenly this warlord of Noxus just appears and just slices you down, and you're just like, oh yeah, that guy exists. We kind of forgot about that one, as they just drop 4 more kills over to that Belfast Storm top laner. He is getting collapsed on those, so be a play here.
Here's Crashdown comes in, Knockup comes down, will get shut down by Dratiko. The teleport in from Limsey on the other side. Casablanca's looking onto Protection on a flash away. Will keep him alive for now. Donlosi is collapsing onto Joame. Limsey is here to get what damage down he can. Asura goes in with the Audacious Charge, gets knocked back into the team. Limsey looking for what he can. Perfect execution comes in. Protection kills Dratiko. Casablanca kills onto Donlosi, but Protection is largely untouched. Scooby goes down.
He's
looking
alone.
onto Casablanca. Will fall, as will Limsey. It's Sundax against the world. 3 members strong. RIZE, they're looking, they're hoping, they have their angle. And with both the carries dead, Sundax can do nothing but run for the hills. Will Lightning cut his stride short? No, it will not, as this Lulu gets to hop on away. Never mind, walking back into Asura. Then the Lightning cuts his legs in half. In comes Audacious Charge. Whimsied, just for posterity's sake. One more hit will do it. And down goes the Lulu.
It's an unofficial ace picked up by RIZE. They were so behind here, but Synapse overextended on that bot lane wave push. They come in to punish. I think teleports were used. And then I thought Protection was just going to wipe the floor in that fight because they had to run into the Vayne there. But then the back end of it, you saw Protection and Sundax kind of split off with each other. I think it was Asura in between them that was splitting the backline up between each other, meaning that Protection didn't have that Lulu to play that fight with, and that's what he needs if he wants to wipe the floor. with that Lulu being separated from the Vayne, protection was left for Casablanca to just hit down with the soldiers and was just eliminated quickly. And right now, Casablanca is proving to be a massive, massive problem in terms of the DPS. But the shining light, the knight in armor, is Asura on this Xin Zhao. He can stand on the front line. He is a threat as a bruiser, as a fighter in the face of the carries of Belfast Storm. And I'm wondering, if Protection and Sundax get separated like that ever again, and there are tools to do so, there's the Emperor's Divide, there is the Crescent Guard that, if Xin Zhao doesn't tag anyone, does have a knockback, then that is where this Lulu Vayne gets a little bit tricky to play. You saw there, when they get separated, Protection is very easy to kill.
Certainly is, with all of the towers outside of their base now in rubble. Belfast Storm very happy with the situation of the map they find themselves in. They may not be winning the outright 5v5s, but nobody can match Synapse on this side as things stand, not without losing their base on the other side. It takes 3 members just to lock this Ambessa down. Asura and Casablanca starting up this Baron Nashor completely unawares to the side of Belfast Storm, but they are trading their base for it. Synapse looking to take down the first inhibitor tower of this game, and will do so successfully. Now you can see the bot side in the jungle of Belfast Storm moving in towards this Baron. They found out what was being done, and they've moved to it themselves. And with the inhibitor on the bot side being bashed, it is a big decision for RIZE. Scooby and Asura are looking. They now know that someone is on their flank. Asura now showing himself 2,000 health on this Baron. Who's it going to go to? Joame dies on the bot side, and it goes down to RIZE. Asura will give his life for it. He's on the backside, as is Dunlosi. But the steal is nothing to be sniffed at. The inhibitor will fall in the bottom side. You will lose 2. You will gain the Baron. Everybody else will get out with their lives. But more importantly, you cull Belfast Storm Siege.
What the hell? Why? What? Asura entered the pit so goddamn late. How did that even happen? Just kill the jungler. When a jungler is trying to go and steal the Baron, but he enters that early, the Baron wasn't even like close to being dead. Just kill him. It's a 1v3. You just have like 4 people trying to hit the Baron, and it's like at that point, yeah, it's a 50-50. So Asura, like, props on the steal, but that should never have happened. I am absolutely baffled as to how RIZE have pulled off this heist. Now, in terms of what they can do with this Baron, obviously if they can win another fight like as they have been doing, then they can get a lot off one push. But I'm seeing that bottom side inhibitor taken down. I'm seeing a dragon spawn in 30 seconds. I think if you're RIZE, send some resources to just push through that top side. This Soul, it's good, it's strong, but with the way your team composition works, these aren't elongated fights. So, your Azir will be doing enough damage so that, if a fight starts, you will probably kill someone before the regeneration kicks in. So maybe try get this kill onto Synapse here, push through that top side, get some more of those objective bounties, but it does look like they're committing for this Soul contest.
Certainly will be 5-on-5s. Protection starts it up with Limsey at his back. Dunlosi in the pit. RIZE, they're caught in a sandwich. Sundax is nowhere near his carry, however. Protection's popped the final hour. Dragon will go across and Soul will be secured. Scooby in the pit is looking for something. Sora goes in, but nobody is found onto Protection just yet. Silence is doing what he can to buy space on the backside. Sora falls to Protection. Limsey, perfect execution to the backline. Casablanca, 1 hit from dead. There is nothing left in the map. Perfect execution will not quite tag, but